What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stokastic here on the Odd Chapter channel, coming to you with another edition of Liddy's Leads, Likes, Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell goes a long way for me, and this video goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Gonna get myself on out of here. Got my late 2-year wedding anniversary dinner to go have. Thank you to everybody for all the nice messages over on my Twitter, at Eric Lindquist, if you're not following me over there. Would love to just interact with you, talking bets all day, all the live long day. It's fantastic stuff. Hopefully we can get a couple of these converted as the games just got underway. But looking forward to talking a little bit of round ball here for a bit. 10 games. I'm going to be a little bit quicker than normal, so some of you are going to enjoy that. Some of you should probably check out Lindy's Locks Update over on my Twitter, at Eric Lindquist. I'll be breaking down these plays a little bit more in depth here in that afternoon window. So, again, we kind of were a little bit trepidatious. Happy we were. There was a lot of news that broke, whether it was Gary Trent out, OG Anunoby out. We got some really good value there with that Dennis Schroeder play, regardless of how it turns out, just because of that opportunity. But then there's also that spot where now De'Aaron Fox is going to be playing basketball tonight for Sacramento, which is a wild thing. I got to repeat, the NBA injury news is wild. More wild than it's ever been, because people are trying to work around these new rules and trying not to, make sure you get to 65 games so you can get awarded all of your things. But otherwise, it's going to be a weird year, that's for sure. So trying to be a little bit cautious, but I do have a lock on the card for today. Excited for that. Going to talk you through it. But we'll talk about Bet365 here in a little bit. 6 states where that's available. I'll talk about them at the halfway point. But producer Jacob, let's get to the picks. Our venture begins with Miami and Charlotte here in the early, there's a couple of early games here, so that's kind of redundant. But Miami and Charlotte here. Kyle Lowry expected to be back here for this one. They still have Tyler Hero out, still have Caleb Martin out. Josh Richardson, probable for this one, which is kind of wild as well. Interesting starting five that I'm projecting out here for this one. Again, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, who came from the ether, now going to be inserted into a lot of duty here. They need the shooting on the floor. We'll talk about him a little bit more in depth. I'll at least talk about Charlotte. Brandon Miller left that last game early. He's expected to be completely fine here, despite Charlotte being a no-show in the Garden and pretty much this entire beginning of the season. You got Gordon Hayward. He's probably here for this one. I thought maybe there was a chance where he was dinged up, but again, having these extra random rest days before the play-in tournament that nobody cares about, adding an interesting context, interesting layer to try to break down. But this is a pretty quick and easy piece of an analysis for me. I think I'm going to be looking at laddering somebody, anybody, whether it's a Kyle Lowry assist, whether it's Mr. Josh Richardson and coming off the bench perhaps. But I think the guy who stands out the most for me is trying to make Duncan Robinson a thing. They've been playing some smaller lineups, or I guess bigger lineups now with Kyle Lowry. He was out. But anyway, he's back in here for this one. But Duncan Robinson, looking at his three-point percentage so far this season, right around 36%. I expect it to get better, and getting better all the time. Anyway, 5 threes? That might be a huge ask, but I'm very curious to see where some of these alternate lines end up opening on him. I'm going to highlight center star him just for the time being, but this is a Charlotte team that can't guard you or me or anyone. They also play at the 4th fastest pace in all of basketball, 101.9 possessions per 48 minutes, and, adjusted strength of schedule. They've played nobody, and yet they're 3-6. So riddle me that, Batman. We're looking at Duncan Robinson up to 5 threes, potentially. Got to see the numbers. Very sad news here as the Atlanta Hawks take on the Detroit Pistons, and our guy, Jalen Duren, is going to be out for this one. He was originally questionable, got ruled out here with that ankle injury. He has not looked the same since that ankle issue flared up on him. They should have just kept him out there for a little bit, tried to play through it. Hasn't looked all that good. It's been more Asar Thompson there on the boards, a phenomenal rebounder. So not taking anything away from him by any means. But as I look at the Atlanta side, you have a questionable Trae Young. It's a questionable with a personal tag. I think we'll have a better sense of where he's going to land on this injury report very, very early on in the morning. Might try to react to it a little bit, but I will say out of any stud or like somebody with massive name recognition in basketball, Trae Young, probably the guy that I value the absolute least amongst them. Now, offensively, he still had a plus 3.8 plus minus, estimated plus minus, had a win share of 10.8 last season, but that's a little bit down from 14.2 that he had in 2022-23. And it hasn't necessarily been the easiest fit alongside DeJounte Murray at times. Now, he comes off of going to Mexico City, went completely ballistic in that game, although a lot of the things we needed to have happened in that one. So just happy Orlando ended up doing some nice work for us there on Thursday. But as I look at Trae Young here in this spot, I don't think he's going to matter all that much to the complexion of it, although I think he's more than likely to play just because it's a personal issue. Think you can get him over there. Again, I'm not sure what to make of it here the night before, but I would be leaning Atlanta -4.5 as a result of that. You do get enough pieces in from Detroit. Alec Burks back, Jaden Ivey back. Just not sure that necessarily matters. Atlanta, a lot more coming off the bench for them. I'm going to give you a little bit of a dealer's choice here. And this is something in the NBA where you just have to talk about likes, leans, locks a little bit differently, mainly because a lean, that's something that I haven't bet yet. I haven't bet this one yet, but there is a very strong possibility that I'm going to be firing this up sooner rather than later because it just kind of went down about an hour or two ago. You got Joel Embiid questionable for this one. You don't get a massive piece like Joel Embiid questionable in these spots and not try to middle a certain line if it shows back up somewhere in the ballpark the next day. Now, do books throw this one back up? Because as soon as he was listed as questionable, the 6.5 that did exist got ripped off the board. Does this get inflated? No, it does not. It's going to drop from 6.5, if anything, here to around the 4.5 range. I'm guessing that might be the middle. But I would legitimately have Indy as like a pick 'em here without Joel Embiid. And yeah, we're talking about Joel Embiid being worth 5, 6, 7 points because it's freaking Joel Embiid. I don't really even think you need to have the rationale. I don't need to break down his estimated plus minus, which is the best in basketball from last season, the reigning MVP, a guy who plays in a two-man game with Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's been awesome. Tobias Harris quietly had an awesome postseason, talked about him throughout, and that has carried into this season right off the bat. So really good stuff that we're seeing from him. But I got to tell you, it's Joel Embiid. It's an Indiana Pacers team that's drastically improved. You have lots of pieces coming off the bench that can do offensive things alongside Tyrese Halliburton, whether it's Buddy Hield knocking down shots, Aaron Nesmith, who can guard multiple positions, Jalen Smith, who's like a hustle dude, whatever. Andrew Nembhard, obviously, out of Florida. Lots of pieces there that I'm kind of a fan of. Benedict Matherin's been knocking down shots, and Bruce Brown's just going to be that guy. Bruce Brown's just going to be that guy. Just does all the dirty work, fills up a stat sheet, not necessarily needing to score with the ball in his hands. And Miles Turner, one of the best two-way bigs. So feels a little bit uncomfortable. But Indiana money line, I wouldn't be mad if as soon as this number drops, that we go to the money line instead of the spread here. Yeah, I do think that spread's going to be a little bit middled, but I might be just trying to take some plus money if it shows up, when this line shows back up, and move along with my day. So if you're feeling the same way as well, there's a strong chance that ticket is way worse come first. I almost said first pitch, come tip off here. But I do think Joel Embiid being out, it's worth the stab in the dark. Oh, let's talk a little like, shall we? Orlando taking on Brooklyn here in this one, and just giving you the injury report like I normally do. We don't have our guy, Ben Simmons, playing basketball yet again. Cam Thomas probably going to be out for another week or two here with that ankle injury. It was wild because he was shooting unsustainably well. We shorted him, and then he gets hurt, and I kind of feel bad. Partially responsible, although the money still hits your account. I just really enjoyed watching him. He was just an insane person out there just chucking. Again, shooting unsustainably well from two, in fact. I don't know. We'll probably not get any kind of numbers to be able to short him right from the get-go. Might need him to ramp up a little bit before we go take those stabs again, but I'm looking at an Orlando basketball team that is a two-point dog heading in here. Markelle Fultz out again. Wendell Carter continues to be out. Gary Harris continues to be out. But I don't really think that Anthony Black's going to be like a usage monster. But Markelle Fultz isn't necessarily that guy either. So these props, they look pretty efficient. I've been pretty fervent that Jalen Suggs was going to take an offensive step up here. He has having a little bit more ball handling duty next to Anthony Black, but do think Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, this grouping of players, it's just a tough spot here, but I still like getting the points right from the get-go. Half unit play. Don't go crazy with this one, but I look at Mikal Bridges. I look at Cameron Johnson, who's back in the fray here as well. Dorian Finney-Smith, and then Nicholas Claxton, healthy once again here, but low total, 219. And I just think the superstar power, the future potential superstar power we have here for Paolo Banchero, it's worth it as he's starting to emerge here in his second season. Speaking of emerging talents, let's talk about the game of the night. For anybody who cares about basketball, the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren going up next to each other. The two absolute front runners, really the only runners, as long as they stay healthy, for Rookie of the Year. It's the only award that you don't have to hit that 65 game threshold too. So for what it's worth, one of those things where you could see one of these guys kind of get dinged up and still be fine. But it's more than likely going to be one of these two winning. Victor Wembanyama is still the favorite, as he should be. But Chet Holmgren, my God, have you been watching these two play basketball this season? It's poetry. It's kind of like undescribable because they both are built #different. It's absurd to see. But Victor Wembanyama starting to get a little bit more involved offensively here. Now up to, playing 34, 35 minutes a night here in competitive spots, 38 he had against Toronto. So it's nice to see that kind of range is there. He's going to be a little bit of a turnover machine, but he's averaging 29, 2.5, and then another 2.5 because he's averaging 2.5 blocks a game. What in the world? What in the world? Not shooting all that well from three, shooting 30% from three, but that is going to improve. Maybe don't fade away when you're 7'4". You can probably just go straight up and it's going to be fine. But same thing with Chet Holmgren on the other side. Again, I'm keying in on these two because I think all people are going to be keying in on both of them. 2.3 blocks per game for Chet Holmgren, averaging 16.5, 7.5, and 2.5. The big difference is he has SGA there, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That is your number one here in Oklahoma City. Victor Wembanyama, he's the number one now. He's the number one of the future. Maybe you have Keldon Johnson who can take on offensive responsibilities from time to time, Jeremy Sohan. And yes, this Spurs team, exponentially healthier than it was, a week ago here. Trey Jones, the only person, he did not play on Sunday. Not sure what to make of his status here, but I don't really care. I'm looking at the 20-plus points, like alternate, like single-game parlay action, the most clear-cut single-game parlay that's ever existed on Earth. Chet Holmgren, 20-plus points. Victor Wembanyama, 20-plus points. I like it. You should bet it. We're all going to watch it. So just do it. Another thing you should absolutely do if you're in one of these 6 states, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Kentucky, Iowa, or Colorado, is bet $5 and getting $150 in bonus bets at Bet365 by signing up at the link below. It's as simple as going to the link, clicking on it, signing up, getting the geolocation tracker, which, again, takes all of about 5 minutes to get all of this done. And when you bet $5, deposit $5 or more over at Bet365 and bet $5 on anything, you're immediately going to get $150 in bonus bets. It's a ridiculous deal. They want you to try out their book. And this is one of the more world-renowned books that exists. They're coming over to the States, going to be in other states here very, very shortly. But if you have this available in your state, one of those 6 states, get this $150 in bonus bets right now. Only for 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the picks we go. 5 games to go, and yeah, there's not a lot to mine out of any of these outside of one. Well, 2, actually. I do have 2 plays from it, but this one's about as unappealing as it gets as of right now. You've got Dallas. You've got New Orleans. Did everybody watch Zion Williams' press conference? Didn't exactly inspire confidence, and here's the thing. New Orleans was playing fine with CJ McCollum at the helm. He has this lung issue. I feel terrible for him. I feel bad for a Pelicans organization that CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson, that's an exciting trio that come the deadline. If you could have a team in the West, I think the West is far more open than what people are giving it credit for. My Minnesota Timberwolves kind of ascending, feeling pretty good, pretty great, pretty good, huh? All right, I'm done doing whatever. I'm not saying anything of value. This is valuable though, friends. Herb Jones questionable for this one. If he ends up being out, I could see a guy like Matt Ryan, Dyson Daniels playing a lot more minutes. If you're able to get in some kind of an alternate spread or single game parlay situation there, I'd be okay with it. But for the most part, this is not an appealing basketball game. You're not expecting a lot of offense here whenever you have, a team that's just going to play slow. We know that Dallas, that is the way that they like to do things at the helm here with Luka Doncic. Dallas, though, have kind of changed that a little bit. We're talking 101.2 possessions per 48 minutes. That's 9th in the NBA. Unfortunately, the New Orleans Pelicans, they're right next to them there. So it is what it is. It's an efficient number here as it stands. God, 240, huge total for a reason. So just, I have nothing from this one. Everything's efficient across the board. If you maybe do anything, Dallas -3.5, because you get the random Zion resting or Herb Jones ends up being out. Tiny bit of value there for you, but I think he more than likely plays, and I think I more than likely have nothing to do with this basketball game. This one, I want to pull the trigger, but I kind of need to see the number. The Portland Trailblazers taking on the Utah Jazz. I think you know by now where we're going to be paying attention to here, mainly because the usage has to go up. It has to go up for Lauri Markkanen. He's got a guy like Jordan Clarkson sitting there, and right, 26, 27% usage, that's normal, but like not for the number one on your basketball team. That is not something that you want going forward. You want Lauri Markkanen, who's shooting at one of the better clips in the entire NBA right now, doing more of that work for you. Now, he gets a Portland matchup that obviously is fruitful, obviously isn't all that difficult, although the individual assignment of a Jeremy Grant who's playing like what, 46, 41 minutes? The 41 minutes was in regulation. Him and Shaedon Sharpe, which I can't even talk about because I had the 20.5 points prop there in that Lakers game on Sunday. Pain, suffering, that's all that I know. Shaedon Sharpe, friends, he played 42 minutes and didn't get there, despite he is very happy to chuck. A willing participant in the shooting department here. Obviously, piece of news that you're going to be paying attention to, Malcolm Brogdon is continuing to be out. Simons has been out forever. And Scoot Henderson as well. So Shaedon Sharpe going to play a ton of minutes. Maybe we find some value there in his points prop, but I have to go back to the well on 25, up to 25 points here for Lauri Markkanen, assuming minus 110 juice. So I think it ends up being 24.5. That's kind of where it's landed the last couple after we attacked 23.5 successfully, I may add. But this is a decent spot here, obviously, against a Portland team that playing a lot of backups, a lot of minutes because they kind of have to. They don't play at the fastest pace. This isn't an Indiana Pacers setup, but defensive issues like out the butt, like just insane stuff. We're talking 23rd in adjusted defensive rating here at dunksandthrees.com through the early portion of this season. Let's go King Lauri here. Smash it up to 25 points. Just a lean till we see the number. 3 games to go. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell as we break down a little bit of Clippers and Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is pretty good at basketball. You know what's not? These Clippers right now. Way worse. We're talking negative 65 with James Harden on the floor so far through 4 games. 0-4 in them. Plus 25 in terms of plus minus with him off the floor. That's not great, Bob. I still think it was a swing that they had to take here with their roster construction. You went all in for Kawhi and Paul George. You have to try to get as many pieces as you can around them. And I'm sorry, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, that was never going to be it. James Harden could have been it. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be working out here yet. You got to find some chemistry there. Russell Westbrook and James Harden, go out to dinner and hash out your differences. Kawhi Leonard walking away because he's pissed. It's not great there in LA right now, that's for sure. But one guy, and again, I'm not a huge matchup guy, but one team that I've seen play a lot over the last couple of years, because I just try to find Jokic, whether he's in Phoenix, whether he's in LA, I try to go to it. Jokic is outrageous to watch. Going to be out here in Denver, though, for this one, a home spot against Ivica Zubac. Doesn't get a number 2 center out there. It's going to have to be like Moussa Diabate, who's going to have to play some kind of minutes here at the 5. You need that size. You have to find ways to get size on the floor, and they just don't really have it at all with Mason Plumlee now with that left knee MCL sprain. So Zubac, if he gets in foul trouble, this is going to be an absolute havoc by Nikola Jokic on the boards, distributing Reggie Jackson revenge spot. I mean, this could just be ugly quick. Again, the Clippers not playing good basketball. I'm probably going to stay away from this line in general, but there's no way I'm staying away from Jokic triple-double. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it, and you should too. We've reached the lock portion of the program, and I can't believe this number. I can't. This is the trappiest thing in the history of traps that have ever been trapped. My Minnesota Timberwolves, which ESPN just ranked 2nd in their adjusted power ranking, which I don't really put anything into, but it's more of just a conversation piece to say, holy mother of God, Anthony Edwards is ascending into that dude. Have you watched? 28.5 a game, 6 boards, 5.5 assists, doing things in the steals category as well. Nearly a steal and a half per game. Went 1 for 9 from 3 against Golden State. Didn't even shoot it particularly well, but 10 for 10 from the line, 11 for 27 from the field. Made Draymond Green his you-know-what. It was so beautiful to watch. Another 30 spot for my guy. They've now rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row here with Anthony Edwards just going completely ballistic in almost every single one. It's so fun to watch, friends. But I'm looking at the Golden State side. Not a lot to really mine out of this one. Completely healthy. Normally, that wouldn't lead you with two teams that are basically completely healthy with anybody who matters. Jordan McLaughlin, I will remember you. He'll be out. But again, nobody cares. Minnesota is +4. I've got this nearly a pick 'em. You got some major issues as you work through some of the data here on the Golden State side. It is not pretty. They're 6-5. They're +2.5 in adjusted net rating. That's 7th, but 12th now in adjusted defensive rating. 12th. Do you know what they were last year? They were right around that. But they don't have Jordan Poole there yet, and yet things have barely gotten better. When they were, 14th, 12th? I mean, this is absurd stuff that we're seeing defensively, some breakdowns against a Minnesota team and the best rim protector in the NBA through the first couple weeks of the season. Rudy Gobert. Riddle me that. Maybe this thing is going to work out after all. I'm not optimistic because Minnesota sports only bring pain and suffering, but I will just take the pain and suffering with 4 points here. So if they lose by 3, I will live with my life, but I've got this closer to a pick 'em based on their current level of play. Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, completely getting outplayed by guys way worse than them further down the bench. Like Dario Saric, they should be playing him more minutes at this point based on what we've seen in the early going from Wiggins. But hey, Anthony Edwards is just going to be that dude, friends. Minnesota +4, your lock of the day for Tuesday. And we head to Memphis and LA. LeBron James is questionable. This line is never going to drop for me. I could be here for hours and it won't drop until I wake up, probably. It might not even wake up. It might not even show up then. Kind of need some clarity on the old LeBron James, huh? Jared Vanderbilt's questionable too. Xavier Tillman's questionable too, but nobody cares about them. Jacob Gilliard's been starting for Memphis. Have fun with that one. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's get out of here. Lakers money line, just a lean. No way am I betting this till there's more clarity. So I'll take a look at the numbers later. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Lakes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section. Let me know your favorite plays that exist on the board here for Tuesday's slate. Going to be an awesome 10-game slate. Going to be firing some stuff up pretty early there for that one. Going to be really, really fun. So check me out over on X at Eric Lindquist, just my name. That is where you can find all of my great content that I'm firing up here, getting things going here in the NBA streets, NFL. Hey, Vegas won, yay. But anyway, we're going to get ourselves the heck up out of here. I'll be back here on Wednesday. Until then, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Tuesday.